Hey everybody, Tom the Dilettante here. Hope you're all doing well. Tonight we're supposed to have some nice low temperatures, supposed to drop below freezing, and I thought I'd take this as an opportunity to test out how well that diesel heater I recently picked up works to heat the tent overnight in colder temperatures. I'll be staying in my Gazelle T4 tonight, and the goal of this video is to see how well this thing works in keeping this tent comfortable overnight. For safety purposes, I'll have a carbon monoxide detector and a fire extinguisher in the tent with me overnight tonight. If you're ever using a diesel heater or a propane heater like me, I highly recommend you keep these things nearby you as well, just in case. Right now, outside it's in the mid-30s and dropping, but inside the tent, with the heater on high, it's about 70 degrees and dry. Humidity is only about 38%, which is awesome. The heater itself is about 3 feet outside the tent, with a duct running through the zipper in one of the doors. I ended up having to wrap the duct with a towel just because the duct itself was getting pretty hot and I didn't want to damage the tent. It's got a full tank of gas and is plugged into a fully charged Jackery 500. So come morning I'll be able to report back to you how much fuel it burned and how much juice it took to keep this thing running overnight. One thing I can say for now is that it's quieter than I thought it would be. I don't hear the fuel pump tapping away like I've read can be obnoxious in some reviews online. In fact, all I really hear is the droning of the heater outside and what sounds like a typical HVAC vent with the hot air pouring into the tent. Honestly, I think it's going to make for some nice white noise to fall asleep to. That being said, I think I'll close this out for now, pop on an audiobook, and get ready to hit the rack, and I'll see you in the morning to report back on how it went. Good morning. So I'm happy to report that I didn't die. Nothing caught fire and the carbon monoxide detector remained silent all night. And yes, I did put a fresh set of batteries in it and tested it before I went to bed. So aside from getting up occasionally throughout the night to check on things around the tent, I actually got a pretty good night's sleep. And after a short walk around, I'm back to share with you my takeaways from this quick field test. Number 1, heat output. This thing actually worked pretty darn well. It maintained about 30 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit above ambient temperature outside. And even though it hit 31 as a low last night, it stayed in the 60s pretty much all night. And as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty darn good, especially considering that I'm in a pretty large, uninsulated, 3-season tent. The ceiling on this tent is really just an open screen, and I'm willing to bet that most of the heat went up through that screen, hit the rain fly, and ended up cooling down and washing down on the outside of the tent, probably wasting a lot of my heat. I suspect with a little bit of insulation, like some Reflectix on the top, and a tarp on the floor to help prevent some of the ground cold from seeping into the tent, this heater and tent combo could probably rock some single-digit temperatures. But that test will just have to wait until next winter. Also, the heat that came in here was all dry heat, so I didn't have any internal condensation when I woke up this morning. As a matter of fact, the humidity stayed under 50% the entire night. Number 2, gas consumption. Pretty good actually. I got 10.5 hours on a full tank, and that was running it on high. Now when I say high, I mean running the heater at its maximum fuel pump rate. You see, the default way that you adjust this heater's output is to use the panel or the remote that was provided with it to adjust the fuel pump rate measured in hertz, where 1 hertz is 1 fuel pump dose per second. The lowest setting on this heater is 1.4 hertz or 1.4 doses of fuel per second, and the highest setting is 5.4 hertz or 5.4 doses per second. Each cycle of the fuel pump moves about 0.02 milliliters of fuel, and based off of my measurements, the tank that came with this unit has a capacity of about 4.7 liters or 1.25 gallons. So if you do the math, what I expect to get out of this thing is up to 40 hours of runtime on a single tank on the lowest setting, and about 10.5 hours per tank on its highest setting. In case you're curious, here's the table and chart that I derived and was able to corroborate at least with my 10.5 hour observation. Now what I don't know to expect is how this thing will work at higher altitudes. My test here at home is at about 650 feet above sea level, and I've read that at higher altitudes this thing might run a little bit richer and run the risk of higher deposits, which might cause premature wear and failure. If you have any experience running these things at higher altitudes, or have any hacks to help make sure these things function properly when the air is less dense, please leave them in the comments for myself and others below. Number 3, power consumption. The heater runs off of 12 volts, and so I plugged it into my Jackery 500. Overnight it pulled a consistent 30 watts, or about 2.5 amps, and that was enough to deplete the Jackery from a fully charged 100% to about 40% over this 10.5 hour runtime. That's about what I was expecting, and assuming I can plug my solar panels into the Jackery during the day, I should have enough to keep me powered for any length of trip. Number 4 is more of a learning experience, and that's to use the right duct. You see, I thought I can get away with using this flexible duct that was made for heating and air units, and it's composed of aluminum, PVC, and PET. And I was wrong. The duct started to get a little hard and start to crack up here by the heater, and throughout the night it started producing a little bit of this kind of bad burnt plastic smell. And while I'm sure that wasn't good for my health, done is done, I don't feel any dumber today, but the tip to you is use the right ductwork for the job. Next time I'm going to use an aluminum duct like this one, and even though it's considerably less flexible and a little harder to work with, at least it shouldn't melt or gas me with noxious fumes overnight. So that's it. Overall, I've been pretty happy with this thing. Between this test and running it for the past couple of weeks, I've put about 60 hours on the unit, and it hasn't disappointed. Everything still works fine, and I'm looking forward to using it more in the future. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with anyone else that you think might get some use out of it. If you've got any questions or anything to add, please leave them in the comments below. Until the next time, this is Tom the Dilettante saying thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, keep on tinkering, and keep on learning. Have a good one.